Hey, welcome back to the Wide Right Podcast. I'm Manny Navarro, joined once again by Carlos Ledo of the MIA All-Day Podcast. It is Tuesday, November 18, 2025. Your Miami Hurricanes are coming off a 41-7 victory over the NC State Wolfpack. But Carlos, I got to be honest with you, brother. It feels like this season is over. In fact, I've basically geared up to start looking ahead to 2026. I know Miami fans are like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? We still have a chance to make the college football playoff. Carlos, the honest to God truth, they're not getting into the SEC Big Ten Invitational, at least not the way it looks to me. It looks like despite all the hard work Mario Cristobal's done in building this thing up in year 4, they basically need a miracle to get in. I'm curious, how do you feel, Carlos, hearing me say those things?
You know, when you're an addict, right? They say the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. And those words aren't always easy to hear. You know, when you have an intervention, somebody slaps you in the face with the truth. It can be difficult. It can be difficult. And, we've known it's the truth for a while, Manny. We've tried to keep up appearances. We've tried to sort of, keep hope alive out of Jesse Jackson. It's not happening, brother. Because we said at the beginning of the year, if they lost more than one conference game, they were done. If they didn't make it to the ACC title game and probably win the ACC title, they were probably going to be done. They weren't going to get into the playoff. And look at the position we're in. It's whenever you are striving to achieve something and you take that, whether or not you're able to achieve something out of your hands and place it in someone else's, and you're dependent on someone else for that to happen, it's never good. And that's what they did this season. They had their own destiny within their hands. They had control of it, even after losing to Louisville. And they blew it again against SMU. They gave it up. It's great that they looked really good against Louisville. I mean, against against NC State, and they did a lot of the things that we've been calling for the
Right.
entire season. That's great, But there's 2 games left in the season now. And there's not enough wiggle room for you able to be sneak in there. For you to be able to sneak in there, unless there's some major upsets and major collapses that happen down the stretch that give you just a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, and look, I want it to be positive because I think that the program is definitely headed in the right direction.
You're being
I
very
think
positive, man. You're positive they're not going anywhere.
No, I am. I'm also positive that this season is pretty much in the books. I called Kelvin Harris on Saturday night after Oklahoma upset Alabama, and I said, "Are you ready to watch the Gator Bowl? Because that's where they're going to be. They're going to be playing Vanderbilt or Tennessee in the Gator Bowl because that's what it looks like to me, right? I mean, look, you can look at the AP top 25 rankings and say they're meaningless. It's the college football rankings that matter, but clearly the College Football Playoff Committee has already decided that Vanderbilt, Utah, BYU, Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon, all of those teams are better than Miami in their eyes. And that's the way the voters feel, right? And I'm pretty sure the College Football Playoff Committee is going to do the same thing. Or should I'm really going to start calling them the SEC Big Ten Invitational Selection Committee, because that's what this is. This is, without question, a giant dose of bias towards certain conferences. And look, the ACC brought this upon themselves. I've talked about this on the show before. You can't have a bad record in interleague games and expect it not to hurt you. But let's face some facts here. Notre Dame lost to Miami straight up. Alabama lost to Florida State. I can understand BYU being a one-loss team ahead of Miami, but Vanderbilt, those were impressive wins, beating LSU, who's having a really bad year, beating Missouri, who's clearly not the same team that they were with their starting quarterback healthy. Utah got absolutely run out of the building by Texas Tech and lost to BYU. That Utah should be ranked ahead of Miami. I just don't get it, Carlos. And I think, you can sit here and look at all those schedules and say, oh, maybe Miami gets lucky and the committee changes their mind tonight. But I just don't see it happening.
If they do, I mean, they should. At the very least, especially like you're talking about with Utah and Vanderbilt, they should be ahead of those guys. I think Bama should be out of the top 10 in the college football playoff, having lost a game to Florida State early in the year, now suffering their second loss and having a common opponent with Miami. Of course, the head-to-head with Notre Dame. The thing with Notre Dame now is, if this comes down to the last week of the season, and the Hurricanes are basically playing for their college football playoff life against Pitt, if they don't dominate Pitt as thoroughly as Notre Dame did, then they're pretty much done. They're definitely done.
Listen, nothing is going to change here. Okay, part of and I am a conspiracy theorist. Part of the reason Notre Dame was ranked so far ahead of Miami in the initial standings was so that you could not compare the two of them. You could say, well, they're so far apart. What difference does it make? Miami beat them head to head, but what does that game in August really matter, right? Because they're so far apart in the poll. And so when the poll comes out, when the college football playoff rankings come out tonight, and it's the same thing, and Miami fans are sitting there upset, be upset at the ACC and their people for not fighting for you. I mean, listen, you can put out a tweet and say, look at the difference between Team A and Team B. At some point, there has to be a benefit to playing Notre Dame, right? You have 5 league games every single year. Notre Dame plays against ACC opponents. They win most of them. But when Miami beats you head to head, that should count for something, Carlos. And
well, it should, except, and Miami wouldn't be ranked where they are now without that win against Notre Dame. I can guarantee you that. You substitute another team in there. Let's say you substitute Virginia in there, and they're not in the top 15 in the college football playoff right now. That win against Notre Dame, that's the benefit of and then getting the national profile that you had moving into the Louisville game where you were number 2 in the country. So you're not number 2 in the country without beating Notre Dame. Right. So that's the advantage of it. Now, that the fact that they pissed it away and they gave up the advantage, that's not on the college football playoff committee. That's on them. And that's why
they did
in a position they're in.
They did, Carlos, but this is, to me, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, they should not be that far apart. And Oklahoma lost to Texas badly early in the season. All of a sudden we're forgetting that Oklahoma's, number 8. We're going to move them all the way up because, I don't know, we think that Oklahoma is a top 10 team. I mean, you're splitting hairs here. And to me, there's an obvious agenda when you watch television constantly, and all they do is make fun of the ACC. That's all they do is make fun. Oh, what a joke conference. Oh, what a joke. Like, it's just, and to me, like, these people are human. The people on the selection committee, they're human. They listen to all this. They listen to their peers. They're going to just agree with what the general consensus said. And that's why a few weeks ago, when the initial college football playoff rankings came out, I was really upset for Miami because I felt like they're going to get screwed in this. And I felt like one of the few people who was screaming at the top of my lungs at that time saying they're going to get screwed because of this.
Well,
they're just going to get screwed.
Here's the thing. The ACC can also control that, right? They can continue to make up or put together matchups against top-tier SEC programs, not mid-tier, and beat them and continue to have that on their resume if they win those games. The other thing is the ACC is a shit show because they keep on losing to one another, right? And they keep on fumbling the ball.
So does the SEC.
No, yeah, but it's not at the same level, Manny. When your marquee program loses to mediocre teams, your supposed marquee program, Miami, loses to teams that are mediocre, that aren't even in the top 25 now, that's that's an indictment on them, and that's an indictment.
Carlos, what was the halftime score of Texas A&M in South Carolina?
I have no idea.
It was 30-3 South Carolina. Okay, Texas A&M is undefeated, but they also are a team that's barely won at Arkansas. This isn't the old SEC. This isn't Nick Saban and Kirby
But they've
Smart.
won.
But they've won what?
They've won 10 games. They are undefeated.
Yes. I'm talking about the SEC.
So we're not
this idea of the SEC power structure.
For the 2001
they're that much better is not
2001 Hurricanes
real.
weren't that good because they had to escape against BC at the end, and
they dominated every other. They dominated every other opponent.
Right, but the point is, this is what teams that are good do. They win even when it's a razor's edge. Right? You don't fumble it against mediocre teams. That's the difference between really good teams and teams that are just pretty much average or just above average. You win the game no matter what it takes and against the opponent. There's going to be games where you don't play well. There's going to be games where you just don't have it, where you have to fight and claw your way to win, and you need to take care of business. And that's what they've done to this point. The argument shouldn't be within the top 5. The argument should be right where Miami is in that area. The fact that, like I said, that win against Notre Dame, without that, they're not even in the conversation.
My argument has to do with giving the SEC the benefit of the doubt that they're the best conference in college football. That's what my argument has to do. They are not what they were at their peak. They just aren't. The transfer portal has severely weakened that conference compared to what it was before. NIL has severely weakened the SEC in terms of what it was once before. We know the Big Ten is basically a 2 or 3 team conference every single year. So to me, the Big Ten is accurate. You have 3 Big Ten teams in. But why are we talking about 5 or 6 SEC teams getting in? Why?
Because comparatively, in their mind, those 5 or 6 are better than the ones at the top of the ACC.
They're not that much better. I'm sorry. They're not.
Well, you just said they're not that much better.
Well, I'm talking about.
You should say is they aren't better. If they aren't better, then they aren't better. But if they aren't that much better, then they're better.
But it shouldn't be 6 SEC teams and 1 ACC team is what my point is. It should not be
that
that
much
of a difference.
It should be at least 2 ACC teams. But then again, also
at the very least.
But you just made the argument for it at the beginning that the ACC didn't take care of business when it
I
comes to intersectional
understood.
play.
I understand that, but to go back and look at those ACC matchups with those SEC teams and who were the teams involved in that
Which is
record.
what I said
Like
last week, right?
my general point here ultimately is that the SEC does not deserve 6 teams and this much of a gap, right? Like it shouldn't. And yes, Miami has lost 2 games they shouldn't have. One at home to Louisville, another one to an SMU team that's 13-1 since they joined the conference, by the way. Okay. But it's not like they were blown out in any of those games. Okay. It's not like they have been completely mismatched at any point the last 2 years. Even the losses last year, it's the same thing. I think it's 4 losses by 18 combined points or whatever it is. Like they're right there. And
Horseshoes
to
and hand
be
grenades.
yes, but Carlos, I just to me, I got to make the fight for Miami. Everybody says I'm a
Oh,
Miami
that's
hater.
fine, and I would love for them to make the playoff. But if you're going to be honest and objective about things, the bottom line is they screwed the pooch and they shit the bed themselves.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, there's
But
no
and
denying that.
coding all this in this fluffery of, yeah, you know what? But we're making arguments because of Notre Dame and making arguments of teams ahead of them. Why are they here? Why is the SEC biased? None of that shit matters if they don't lose to SMU.
Okay,
None of that
fine,
shit matters if they don't lose to Louisville. So
fine.
what is
But
the
I
point of
guarantee
this
you,
fluffery?
I guarantee you, they finish this season 10-2. There are going to be a lot of people angry and disappointed, and because they're left out of the party because the SEC gets a lot more teams in when they shouldn't.
You
And
know
I'm
what?
just
And don't
trying
go to
to.
the party, get drunk, and throw up all over yourself. Maybe you can invite her to the party next time. But don't be that meme. Si sabe cómo me pongo, ¿para qué me invitan? Don't be that guy.
Yeah. All right. Fine. Fine. Look, the ACC race is not over yet because technically, if Georgia Tech loses at home this week to Pittsburgh, which is possible because I don't know if you've seen Georgia Tech's defense the last few weeks, but they're horrendous. They're giving up a boatload of points and they're getting bailed out by their offense. They should have lost to Boston College this past weekend. But Boston College is 1-10 or whatever, and they're a terrible, terrible program right now. Um, Virginia took care of business. They've had a good season. SMU, of course, beat Miami head to head. Pitt's ahead of Miami. Duke, technically based on tiebreakers, even though they're 5-5, and have a loss to UConn and some other teams. But Miami's not out of it. Essentially, the scenario for Miami is this: they need Pittsburgh to win this weekend. And then they need Louisville to knock off SMU, and then in a couple weeks, Cal to finish the season by beating SMU. If that happens, and then Duke loses one of its last 2 games, either to North Carolina or Wake Forest, and Miami wins out, then there's a scenario where they can get into the ACC championship game. But it's a lot of ifs and a lot of whats and a lot of upsets.
You know what? As
And
crazy as this conference is, it could happen. Because I could totally see Wake beating Duke in the last game of the season and SMU winning and losing down the stretch. I mean, all these teams are pretty evenly matched. There's not a lot of separation between them at this point in terms of talent and what they've produced onto the field.
okay, sure. But look, I can see Georgia Tech losing this weekend, but it's hard for me to see SMU losing to Louisville at home, especially a Louisville that's out of the race. Like Louisville's done. They have no chance. They got 3 losses. They got beat by Clemson last week. Those kids, we've seen it before with Miami players, right? They basically quit when the season is over and they have no chance anymore of making it. So that's probably not going to happen. And then you need Cal the last week of the season to beat SMU at home, which Cal has obviously pulled an upset already of Louisville, but it's just a lot, man. And then Duke
It
has
is.
to lose another game. It's just
And it goes
it's
back to,
yeah.
damn it. Damn it,
Yeah.
man.
There's no question. Yeah. It's super if you're a Miami fan, I mean, to me, like you're gonna be really angry the next few weeks because you're gonna see this team. To me, they turned the corner this week because they were missing a boatload of starters against NC State. And all of a sudden you saw other guys start to make plays. You started to
Yep.
see, more of a youth movement, more of the younger guys making plays and helping them win that game. And it was very, very encouraging, Carlos. I was
Yeah,
very
I thought it
encouraged.
started in the second half against Syracuse. That late in the game against Syracuse started doing some of those things, and they carried it over to NC State. I mean, the fact that Pringle's been on the bench this entire time, and we've been asking for most of the season in the running game, is a little bit of an option to get outside of the tackles and to put pressure on the defense on the edge and get an
Right.
explosive running back in there. And they've had it all season and haven't used it. It's pretty frustrating, but I'm glad to see him out there on the field now. Their rushing totals for this game in the C gap and beyond or outside of it as a team They ran 22 times for 131 yards in the C gap and beyond. That's 6
Mhm.
yards a carry, basically. Pringle in those areas was 13 carries for 103 yards, 7.92 yards per carry.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a revelation.
Well, and to me, what was even more impressive was just how well the defense played. Didn't allow NC State to cross the 50, I think, until the fourth quarter.
Yep.
When basically all their backups were in. They hold, this is a team that uh, was top 25 in terms of yards per game. I think top 50 or top 40 in terms of scoring and points per game. And just CJ Bailey, who we thought would come in here really motivated, just couldn't get comfortable. I mean, they
Nope.
made him uncomfortable the whole night. And that's without Keontae Scott in the secondary. That's without a bunch of guys on the defensive line. I think David Blay missed the game. Um, you're banged up and you're playing great football at the end, and you're playing with a sense of desperation. That's what I felt Saturday. Like the trickeration, the trick plays, like
Yep.
just everything was like, man, if you had only started doing this a few weeks ago, if
Right.
you had only played with this level of we need to dominate and prove ourselves every single week, you'd be in a different situation. But they played excellent, and kudos to Miami for that.
Yeah. Kudos to them for finally offensively figuring out what their skill set is and what their players are best at. Not just running the ball in between the gaps and the A gaps and trying to find some additional playmakers outside of Malachi Tony. The other thing is that defense has been just phenomenal all season, and they continue to get better as time goes on. What they did to NC State this past Saturday was incredible. It was a masterclass. Jacoby Thomas obviously played his best game of the season. Bain and Mesidor were wreaking havoc. CJ Bailey just had no chance back there.
Yep. Yeah. Carson Beck, I thought was efficient, like
Yeah.
21 to 27, exactly what you want to see from him. Now, granted, this is one of the worst secondaries in college football. They're all banged up, but they tried to bring pressure. I think they got to him once. Miami did a good job just playing the right game plan, like looking the way that they're supposed to look. And Pringle, we talked about it in last week's show, needed more opportunities, needed more of a speed element there. Marty Brown, I think, was solid. He's
Yeah.
exactly the perfect change of pace back you need. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can pound his way through the hole, and it allows Pringle to get somewhat of a rest. Chris Wheatley Humphrey even got some run there in the fourth quarter where you started to see some of his speed. They tried a handoff to Elijah Lofton. I thought that was, how long have we been waiting to see that?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you use, probably one of the most dangerous weapons in all of college football, Malachi Tony, to throw the ball. And they try to get him a touchdown pass on the second one, almost became disastrous. But, still, it's basically going full throttle. And that's what these guys needed to do. When they lost the Louisville game, I felt like it was just too much reliance on Carson. And when you lost the SMU game, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, we're gonna just we're gonna be careful and not blow it. And you're playing one of the worst defenses in terms of pass defense in the country, and you just didn't get the job done. And so now in November, we're starting to see a different team. And this week they'll be playing at Virginia Tech. They're 16.5-point favorites. A Virginia Tech team that Virginia Tech program in general that's in an entirely different state of mind. They just hired James Franklin to be their coach, Carlos. I'm curious to get your thoughts on what James Franklin's hire means at Virginia Tech, and maybe finally we'll get the return of the Miami Virginia Tech rivalry that we've been waiting for.
Let me just go back to the whole point of the Hurricanes and what they busted out
Mm-hmm.
this past game in terms of playing with desperation, playing with maximum effort, like Deadpool would say.
Yes.
This is why you go into the season and you go into each game with foresight and don't want to have to look back with hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, if you aren't prepared and aren't giving your team the best opportunity to win, you're going to end up looking with regret and saying, "Shit, I should have done this." In hindsight, it's unfortunate that you've got 4 years of data, 4 years of data under Mario Cristobal, 3 years of data under Shannon Dawson. You know what the skill set of your players are. You know what they do best. You know how they look best, and how they are the most explosive on offense. And you choose not to do that until now. You choose not to try different things to create opportunities for them not only to be the best version of themselves, but to also put the most pressure on the defense and create opportunities for you to confuse them and create mismatches and things of that nature, instead of just putting yourself in a phone booth and relying on your offensive line to bulldoze their way all the way to the goal line every time you snap the ball. it's just it's unfortunate, and it's an evolution. And I think this week we saw Mario basically stay out of the offense because the first time ever on offense, I saw his headset, microphone not on. It was off while the offense was running plays. So that was interesting to me. Now, as far as James Franklin's concerned, Miami has had a window now for the last few years with Florida down, with Florida State down, and Virginia Tech being non-existent, basically. James Franklin's going to bring that program back. He is the type of coach that fits well there. He does well in a place where there is less pressure, like he did at Vanderbilt. He built up that Penn State program. I mean, they were just in the playoff last year, right? They were just
Semifinals, brother.
semifinals last year. They are consistently won how many? I think it's like 3 or 4 10 straight win seasons, 10 win seasons. That was a program that's formidable. He knows how to recruit. He knows how to build a program. He is a guy that can turn things around pretty quickly in places where it's not conventional turnaround like he did like he did at Vanderbilt. Now with NIL available to him in the transfer portal, he can reshape that roster immediately, bring a bunch of guys from Penn State that love him, that want to play for him, and are maybe from that area on the East Coast that want to come back down and be closer to home and make an impact almost immediately. And it's now another program that's jumped into the ACC, although we've been there, but now renewed with a coach and talent level that will compete for the title that wasn't there in Miami's way before, like SMU just got in and has done that. So again, squandered opportunities, years of miring in mud and dog shit, and not getting out of mediocrity to claim the crown when you're supposed to be the premier program in the conference, and everybody else gets a shot at the title except you.
Yeah. But listen, still headed the right direction, man. And I think that's
I mean, that's comforting.
what we're going to take a look at Miami's entire roster. I went through and deleted all the guys that are going to be or seniors that are leaving after this year, position by position, guys that are going to be going to the NFL draft that we know are gone. And then I added in the recruiting class, at least the commitments right now. And there's still going to be more additions here, Carlos, and guys flipping and leaving the class and all that nonsense that happens up until signing day in a couple of weeks. But let's take a look first at Virginia Tech and talk a little about that game. This is the Hokies. Statistics for the season. Kyron Drones is still there. I know it feels like he's been there forever.
He was Michael Vick's backup, I think.
Yeah, 16 touchdowns, 7 picks, been sacked 21 times. Marcellus Hawkins is their leading rusher, averaging over 6 yards a carry. Drones, though, is basically the offense. The entire offense is him. He scored 9 rushing touchdowns. Terrion Stewart was a good back that they had. I think he got banged up at a certain point. The receivers are not necessarily spectacular, but those are some names to know going into this game. Carlos, 16.5-point favorite. What's your just expectation for Miami in this next game? Because the road has been a place where obviously they don't play as good as they do at home usually. Haven't been on the road a ton, but they're finishing the season on the road. What are your expectations going into this game, and what are you looking for?
It's kind of weird because, aside from the fact that this is going to be Virginia Tech's basically their Super Bowl to end the season, until they play Virginia last game of the year. But Blacksburg is not an easy place to play. Never has been, no matter what the Virginia Tech team has done. That's a difficult place to play, and they always play Miami tight there. There's been a few upsets over time with the Hurricanes going up to Blacksburg where they should have won the game handily, and they end up getting beat. Now with this hiring of James Franklin, the program's got some momentum in terms of how they feel about themselves, about the future, and they want to make a statement week 1 after the hire. I mean, if they come out and do what they did this past Saturday against NC State offensively, if they're just balls to the wall, if they don't care, if they just throw caution to the wind and just be them, and try and do the best they can to be as successful as they can and not sort of play in a phone booth and not play scared, they should win by 21 at least. But my concern is, there may be a turnover early in the game because of the crowd noise, a bad play, something goes Virginia Tech's way, and then Mario starts getting tight and he wants to go and lock this thing up in a shed again. And that's my concern. So the other concern is Drones is athletic. And, they've only faced, one other guy with this kind of athleticism this season at quarterback, and that was against South Florida with Brown. They locked him up pretty good, but who knows what this guy can do. He's pretty nasty. He's good. I think he's a better passer than Brown also.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's continue to run the ball pretty well, averaging 5 yards a carry. Miami's run defense right now, number 2 in the country in terms of rushing yards per game, after holding NC State and basically shutting them down completely. Drones, obviously, the passing game just not there for them, so they don't really have much in the way of balance. It feels like if Miami just shuts down the run, that this should be a game that they cruise to victory. So I think that's the X factor is Kyron Drones and him wanting
Yeah,
to have
because
his
he's
sort
going to
of
make them
last
play
hurrah.
11-11. He's going to make them play on 11 like they're not accustomed to.
Right, right. And so that'll be the key to that game. But I think Miami's probably going to win convincingly. Just think Virginia Tech's. You got so many players nowadays that are just checking out mentally. I got to enter the portal. I don't want to get hurt. I got to get ready for the draft. Whatever the case is. And so as you look at the comparisons there on Miami's defense, Virginia Tech's offense, really the running game, the only thing to worry about, I think, going into this game. All right, Carlos.
Well,
I
hey,
wanted
listen,
to.
I will say
Go
this.
ahead.
Let me say this about the portal. I think
Yes.
this game specifically, the Virginia Tech players are not only going to want to give their best because they're playing Miami, but it's
Hmm.
because the film they could put on for one, James Franklin, if they want to stay at Virginia Tech and have
Right.
a role in the team, or two, if they want to make an exit and go somewhere else.
Right.
So I think all their players this week are going to bring their A game so they can put that on film and say, hey, listen, I'm the portal. Look what I did against Miami, one of the best defenses in the country, or this great offense. I'm available. Or to Coach Franklin, hey, listen, I want to roll in this team. I can help you in the future.
Right. Correct. And yeah, so this is an opportunity for some of those guys. Some of those other guys though will be like, I'm not getting hurt. I'm going to the portal. I'm not going to hurt myself against a Miami team that's bigger and stronger and faster than us. So we'll see what happens, who plays, who doesn't. And if Miami's young guys continue to take steps forward, I think that's the other thing I'll be looking for in that game. It's, you know, uh, can the young running back Gerard Pringle continue? I mean, he had a 100-yard performance against NC State. Does he keep it going? Does he start to all of a sudden, going into next year, you're like, man, Miami's got Pringle. Maybe they get Mark Fletcher back. What kind of an offense is this next year, even without knowing who the quarterback is?
And can these young guys handle that environment on the road?
Yes, correct. I wanted to do a quick 4-year comparison because I did the research on the numbers here. We've talked about Corey Heatherman and the job that he's done with this defense. These are all ACC rankings, by the way, for some of these statistics. Miami scoring defense, number 1 in the ACC. They were 8th a year ago, 6th in Mario's second season, and 10th. So it feels like that part of the program has reached the point where you want them to be. You want to be
Right.
the best defense in the ACC every single year. You look at yards per play on defense, they're number 1. You look at yards allowed per carry, second. I think Pittsburgh's the only team better than them. Turnover margin +8. You look at where they started, -3, -4. You see the evolving of the defense into what, to me, Miami football really is all about. Because when Miami wins national championships, Carlos, it's because they have unbelievable defenses, and it's starting to get to that level. And I text messaged some friends. I said, I know Mario's married already. He's got 2 kids, but he might want to tie the knot with Corey Heatherman because it feels like this is the right relationship for this program.
Yeah, it is. He's the right sort of coach in terms of scheme. He knows how to maximize the talent on defense. And even with the guy down that's so important to that defense in Keontae Scott last week, they didn't miss a beat. They actually
No.
stepped up and played even better. They've just done an excellent job of rotating guys in and out of linebacker, finding the right combinations, not being afraid to put guys on the bench if they need to, and throw young guys out there if they have to. And just schematically, they are sound. They are a sound defense that's fast and aggressive, and it's beautiful to see. It's nice to see that sort of a defense back with the Hurricanes.
Scoring offense wise, after some rough weeks there, Shannon Dawson got back in the right frame of mind there. Miami's 4th in the ACC. I think if you're a top 5 offense every single year in your conference, there's going to be years you get better quarterback play than others. There's going to be years you lose some playmakers, at receiver or other positions that cost you, some points and hurt your offense. But I think the nature that we saw in the NC State game of we're going to be creative, we're going to take chances, we're going to run trick plays, we're going to do something different. That's the Shannon Dawson I hope we see going forward. Because if that's the case, then it doesn't matter if you're only averaging 33, 34 points a game. You're playing that kind of defense, you're going to win most Saturdays. Like you're only going to run into trouble against the elite teams, not the teams Miami has lost to, like SMU and Louisville, who are not elite teams. You're going to beat those teams. So to me, I think the running game obviously could still get a little bit better. When you look at rushing yards per play or yards per carry, which is 4.37, 8th in the league. They were 1st last year. with Cam Ward helping that cause. Maybe a more mobile quarterback in this system next year will help change that a little bit. Carson Beck, we've talked about this before. You can't really use him in the RPO, and maybe somebody who's a little bit more athletic takes you to a different level.
Again, let me correct that for a second. It's not the RPO is not him keeping the ball on a read. RPO is run pass option, meaning
Mm-hmm.
he is reading a second level defender as he's reading a run play, and if that second level defender commits to the run, he pulls and throws. He doesn't have to run anywhere. Now, if you're talking about a read keep scheme, where
There we
it's
go. That's what I'm talking about, Carlos.
right,
You understand me?
right, a zone read. So I just want to clarify, not for you, for them, for the audience in general.
Yes. Yes.
So because the audience makes these mistakes all the time. RPO is run pass option, meaning you're reading a second defender to either decide to give or throw. Read keep,
Mm-hmm.
meaning you're generally reading somebody at the end line of the scrimmage, and the end line of scrimmage, and you are reading to see if you give or you keep yourself and run. So a defensive end collapses, you pull, and you as a quarterback run, right?
Right.
And there's different ways to do that. But I think what they need in the offense is more RPO, which is more that run pass option, where that
Right.
helps you now to create an additional blocker by reading a defender. So if they decide to commit to the run hard, especially in those A and B gaps, now you can pull and throw behind them, which
Right.
the Hurricanes really haven't done all season. That would alleviate the A gaps. And also now what we're seeing is they did a hell of a lot more pin and pull in the run game this weekend. They got outside
Mm-hmm.
on the edges and they ran it out of the shotgun, which I thought Shannon Dawson said wasn't possible. I don't understand. Now all of a sudden we're miraculously doing things that we said we couldn't do before. I don't know. Who said this shit? We're putting Malachi Tony in the backfield. We're handing the ball. We're doing wildcat shit. Like, where did all this come from, Manny? Who said these things? Who could have ever thought that this was possible?
Who could have? Who could have? Look, a more mobile quarterback is something that I think Miami is interested in going into next year.
And please
Carson Beck, to his
don't let it be Lenore Sellers.
listen, could be Sam Levitt. By the way, there was a report this morning. The Athletic, I think, confirmed this. Who I work for, of course, that Sam Levitt is getting shopped, and he's a starting quarterback at Arizona State. Led them to the playoff last year. Got injured. He's been missing out the rest of the season. Word is Texas Tech or Miami is where Sam Levitt is going to end up. So
I think that kid would be better off in Lubbock. That kid comes down here to Miami. He's going to end up with an STD.
Carlos,
I'm just being honest. That kid might not make it through the season.
he may not, but yeah, we could come up with some other reason. Texas Tech has a lot of money
He's
as
going to
well.
be
By the way.
dehydrated, let's say.
Let's say he's dehydrated, right? All right. Let's look. I want us to start looking ahead because sadly, again, I just think that's what we're going to be doing the rest of the season. I think we're going to be looking ahead to 2026 and what pieces do you hold on to and who enters the portal, who comes in, how does your team look going into 2026? So I wanted us to first start by looking at the 2026 schedule, Carlos, if that's possible here. I don't know if you know this or remember, but a couple of weeks ago, the ACC announced that it is going to a 9-game conference schedule beginning in 2027. But in 2026, it is likely to be a situation where Miami will be playing 9 conference games. Now, this is the schedule that they currently have with 8 ACC opponents. Okay, they're supposed to go to Clemson next season. They will play at North Carolina, at Stanford, and at Wake Forest. And then their home games are Boston College, Florida State, Pitt, Virginia Tech. There's also obviously a road game to Notre Dame. Central Michigan is their one G5 opponent. Florida A&M is their one FCS opponent. And there's going to be a 9th ACC opponent added to this schedule next year. I don't know who it is, but obviously playing Notre Dame could end up being meaningless again for Miami, right? The result of that game. But you look at the rest of the schedule. Florida State may have a new head coach. Boston College, as I mentioned earlier, is 1-10. Clemson is having a horrendously bad season. Pitt, they kind of turned things around with Mason Heinschel, even though they got their asses handed to them by Notre Dame. Virginia Tech will have a new head coach. We don't know if Bill Belichick will still be at North Carolina, but I'm going to assume so. Stanford will have a new head coach. Wake Forest has a new head coach. They're going to have a new quarterback, though. It's not like you sit here and you say, man, this is some ridiculously daunting schedule as you look ahead to next year.
I would say this is a more favorable schedule than this year.
Yes. There's no SMU on the schedule yet, although SMU, I guess, could be added as the 9th opponent.
But it would be a home game, I assume.
Right. Most likely.
Yeah. So the schedule favors them. They've got a great opportunity in front of them again. But we've said this for the last 3 years, um, running now. So it's almost like you look at the schedule and say, where's the more likely place they shit the bed? Uh,
Right. That's what we
but
do every year.
right, but I'm hopeful. Listen, man, if now with the defense rolling the way it is, if Mario stays out of the offense's way, if Dawson comes and calls games like he did against NC State in the end of the Syracuse games, then this is a different team, especially if you have a quarterback that can operate the offense. Obviously, I would love a guy that's mobile as well, just to add in a dimension to the offense. Not that you want to run them 20 times a game, but they could give you 3 or 4 runs a game
Right.
to sort of alleviate the box a little bit and ease it up. So it depends on that as well. But I think they can have an opportunity to make some noise. But the problem here is since the schedule is more favorable, then your opportunity for marquee wins is lessened, right? So you're living on a razor's edge in terms of improving or impressing
Right.
people moving forward. Clemson will be a top 25 team, but they aren't going to be the Clemson of the early,
I don't know. I
2010s,
don't know that
2012s.
they'll be the top 25 team. They're losing all those first round picks that they have on defense. So
Well, you know how it is. They'll just on reputation alone. I think if they play them early in the season, they'll still be a top 25 team.
my
Notre Dame,
guess
of
is Notre
course,
Dame will be the only ranked team they'll have on the schedule in the
that'll be a
preseason.
marquee game. Who knows if Florida State ends up at least, or depending early on the season with just one loss or maybe undefeated, they may be ranked.
I would love for them to add Georgia Tech to the schedule. If that's the team that you can somehow get on the schedule as a ninth ACC team, that's who I would love to see them play. Get the opportunity to play Georgia Tech again.
Yeah, and again, maybe another top 25 matchup in there.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Let's take a look at the 2026 backfield. And I didn't take away guys that I think will be transferring. This is just a list of high school commitments with guys with eligibility that should be back because they won't be going to the NFL. Mark Fletcher, I thought had a chance to go to the NFL early. That injury, he's been injury prone most of his career. I think he'll be back next year to be a senior and lead this team. Chamar Brown, I think certainly has a role if he wants. I think Jordan Lyle's probably gone. Just has kind of overtaken by by Gerard Pringle. Chris Wheatley Humphrey will be a third-year player here. Is he your fourth running back? Javian Mallory may not even end up in the class. I know he's flirted with other teams. And then quarterback Emory Williams. I don't know why he would stick around. Luke Nickel. I would assume would. Judd Anderson got passed up in the depth chart, and then you have Darian Coleman. So you'll probably have a transfer quarterback, Luke Nickel, Darian Coleman. I would say Mark Fletcher, Marty Brown, Gerard Pringle, and maybe one other back. We don't know which one yet. Those will be your four backs going into next year. Any disagreement with me there, Carlos?
No, yeah, I think you're looking at Fletcher as the starter, Pringle as the backup right there, the Thunder and Lightning combination.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Wheatley Humphrey sticks around. I don't think Lyle sticks around. I think Judd Anderson and Emery both take off. So they're going to have to add not only just Darian Coleman in the transfer, but maybe one more as a sort of a cast-off transfer and upperclassman as depth there at quarterback to have some experience there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And obviously, quarterback, they're going to spend millions on it. They've done it the last few years. They're going to do it again. You can't go into a season, in my estimation, thinking Emory Williams is the guy. Now, maybe Emory Williams sticks around for the spring, but my guess is Miami will be very aggressive trying to find a starting caliber quarterback. Luke Nickel can come back, compete for the job, and get ready to replace that guy. And Darian Coleman can come in and basically do the same thing. And that's your quarterback depth. Running back, I think they're fine, especially if Fletcher comes back. Pringle has shown me enough where I'm a believer. Like I don't need to see much more from that kid. He knows how to read the hole. He hits it smart. He can be your starting running back or one of your two starting running backs for the next 2 years, and you're in a good situation with him.
Yeah, even if Mark Fletcher decides not to come back, the combination of Marty Brown and Pringle to me is still solid. I think you're good there.
Yeah.
And that might cause Wheatley Humphrey to stick around.
Yeah, so they'll be fine at running back, and I don't think they even need to go into the portal to find anything. They can just go with a high school guy. They'll find somebody here in the high school level to bring in. Pass catchers, I like the situation at receiver. Obviously, Malachi Tony coming back. You'll have Josh Moore, who's the big physical guy. You can see the snap counts for this season. They've played enough. I mean, they're closing in on 200 snaps. Dalen Upshaw started to get more of an opportunity here. Started against NC State. Ray Joseph will be gone. Nick Carr will probably be gone. Chance Robinson will probably be gone. I think all three of those guys are gone. But JoJo Trader should come back and continue to try and develop. You'll have Wingo, Spafford, Paris, Evans. Miami could probably go out and do what they did this year and bring in another CJ Daniels type. So you have another sort of veteran a voice in the room. But this is what the receiver room looks like right now. Before we get to tight end, just your thoughts on receiver.
Yeah, I agree. Unless Josiah Trader decides to leave, that could be a possibility. Who knows? Maybe he feels like he hasn't been handled properly. But if he does, then you definitely need another guy on the outside, a more veteran guy out there.
Yeah, I like Tony in the slot. Obviously, I like
Josh Moore has
more.
potential.
He's got potential. Upshaw, I really
I
like
like
what
him
I've
too.
seen from Upshaw. I mean, and I've changed all these guys' years, by the way, in classification. You're wondering, hey, wait a minute, Tony's a freshman. No, I already went ahead and projected what they are in 26. Wingo is a beast, by the way. That kid is. I've seen him at St. Augustine.
Hmm.
Absolute stud. Spafford, a kid out of California, is kind of your Xavier Restrepo type. Can be on the outside, has more speed, but to me, third down specialist. That's what I look at with him. So I'm not worried about the receiver position at all. And if they have to go out and get one transfer wide receiver, I mean, there's tons of guys every single year available. Tight end is a little more interesting to me. They're not really losing anybody in the tight end room. Alex Bauman has been okay, but he's obviously not a big time pass catching option. He's just kind of like you dump it off to him when you're in trouble guy. Elijah Lofton is the mystery to me. Like we just have not seen enough. Even though he scored a touchdown against NC State, Carlos, it just feels
Hmm.
like that's like an untapped weapon that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that kid's going to decide. You know what? They're not prioritizing me in the offense, and maybe skip town and go to Vegas and play UNLV for Dan Mullen.
or if Dan Mullen's even there with the coaching changeover, we'll
Yeah.
see. Luca Gilbert has played some as a true freshman, big bodied guy. Brock Shot, another guy who came in this most recent class. You can see they've passed up the other dudes that were behind them.
Yep.
And Jackson Carver is just I don't know. He's going to probably enter the portal. Israel Briggs is the big pickup at tight end for Miami in this class. All right, let's take a look ahead at the offensive line because that will be an area, Carlos, where there will be massive turnover. This is who's returning and who's coming in. Jackson Cantwell, obviously, I think is going to come in and be your starting right tackle. He'll probably replace Francis Maui Noah. Joel Irvin, the kid from Fort Myers, projected left tackle. You'll have McCoy back at left guard. You'll have Okunlola probably move over to
Left
right
tackle.
guard or to one of those two tackle spots. It just depends on who's ready and who isn't. SJ Alafatuli, probably your starting center, and then Max Buchanan has gotten a lot of run. He's another true freshman who's played a lot at right guard, so he'll compete probably for that starting right guard spot. Tommy Kinsler's been here a long time, hasn't played yet. Those are the kind of guys that enter the portal, but we'll see. Derek Plaz, I think he probably sticks around another year to kind of see how things work out. But this is the way it works with offensive line recruiting. You bring in a bunch of guys, some of them play, some of them don't, and you just keep restocking the shelves every single year. The good thing is all of these dudes are big. There's like no small offensive linemen on this group,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah, it is, and it's just to me, you're going to lose a guy that's been steady at right tackle for you. And another guy, Inez Cooper's been really steady for your right guard. Left side's been the one that's been a little bit in flux. Markel Bell's been up and down a little bit lately. He's played better the last couple of weeks. I don't trust McCoy. McCoy's been up and down all season, more down to me than up. I think the center spot is going to be somewhere else. You probably end up going in the portal for again, unless you convert one of these guys who are a natural guard to a center. Because you think they deserve to be on the field. I think ultimately what you do is you take your best five and then you figure out the spots later. But you've got to come up
Yeah,
with a cohesive five there.
Ala Fatuli has played mostly guard and tackle so far, but he was projected as their center of the future. So I think they're going to give him that opportunity once Brockermeyer's gone, and he'll have that chance in the spring. But if they feel uncomfortable, offensive lineman's one of those crazy positions, bro. Like guys get into the portal after the spring, and I know there's only one portal window right now, but Xavier Lucas, that's the only thing I'm gonna say. You're not gonna stop people from changing schools, man. Like
Yeah.
they can just unenroll and enroll in a new place, and there'll be loopholes and ways to add players after the spring. All right. This is the defensive line, and obviously it's going to suck not to have Ruben Bain next season if you're Miami. It's going to suck not to have Akeem Mazador, but a lot of guys have gotten burned on this defensive line, Carlos, and they're all growing up a little bit. You saw Justin Scott; he started 3 straight games with some of the injuries at D tackle. Had a big tackle for loss that impressed me in that game. Armando Blunt played a lot of snaps, started
Yep.
to really show you what he can do. Lightfoot's playing a bunch. Donta Simpson is a guy they're super excited about. Hayden Lowe has been injured for the season, but they're super excited about him. You're going to see some transfers. My guess is, Malik Bryant, Cole McConaughey, Artavius Jones, those guys, to me, probably just work their way out of the system. And you look at this freshman class that's coming in, some of those guys will not be a part of the freshman class. Nagel, Chukura, Lafayette, those are all new additions, but I've heard rumors about Ashari Charles essentially flipping to another school like Missouri, and Miami potentially adding some other big 5-star type D linemen. They've done it every single year with Jason Taylor. They've added, studs at the end of the recruiting class. Keyshawn Stansel's a guy they're super excited about as well. I love the state of the defensive line. I know it's going to suck losing Bain and Mesidor, but I don't know, bro. I'm more optimistic about this defensive line in the future than even the group right now.
Yeah, it might be a more complete defensive line in terms of interior and exterior play. You'd ideally like to see one guy out there that's just a monster edge rusher that you could depend on to create havoc. And if you can't do that, then maybe because of the way Heatherman runs the system, you just create it through blitzes and pass rush and using the system itself to create the pressures as opposed to the person.
Yeah. Linebacker is a little bit of a different situation, Carlos. Popo Aguirre is the one young guy that's played a lot here. He started obviously in place of Wesley Besaint when he was injured. You're losing Motore, your other starter. Cam Pruitt, we've heard a lot about how great he's going to be. Hasn't really seen the field much. Kamal Bonner's the transfer that came in from NC State. My guess is he doesn't stick around. This is going to be Popo Aguirre, Cam Pruitt, Wiley, and maybe Ezekiel Marcelin when he gets healthy. I think Bobby Washington's gone. And then you have Jordan Campbell and Justin Edwards, the other two freshmen. This is an area where, without question, you got to go into the transfer portal.
Yeah, you got to go to the portal and get at least one guy, maybe two.
Yeah. I think as you look forward, like it's pretty obvious to me. What do you think of Popo Aguirre's play?
I think he's solid. He's coming on. I think he's playing. I think he's better than what they've had there. Torrey's been very up and down this season. Besaint has been okay, but nothing spectacular. So to me, I think he's. I think he could take the next step next year and really be a solid linebacker for them there. But you want somebody to run with him next to him, and then somebody to back those two guys up and give them a breather.
All right. The secondary, I mean, I don't know how you cannot be excited. I mean, I know it's going to suck losing Keontae Scott and Jacoby Thomas, but Zach Poyser's coming back. You got Xavier Lucas going into his junior year, NFL type guy. Ethan O'Connor has played a lot because of OJ Frederick's injury the last couple of weeks. He's getting a lot of burn. He's going to be a redshirt junior. Frederick will be back. Damari Brown probably back. Bryce Fitzgerald got his first start in place of Keontae Scott here. Dylan Day is a guy that I know the coaching staff likes a lot. And then you had a couple of true freshmen that have played some, Jabari Antoine, Chris Ewald. And then you got this loaded 2026 recruiting class with 6 4-star guys, Carlos. We've complained a lot about Miami's recruiting of the DB position. I think we've seen a big difference with this group going into next year. This might be the best secondary in the country next year.
It might be, and you don't even have to go in the portal for anybody, I don't think. I think they're solid as they are. All the guys coming back, they're going to be even better next year. I'm excited to see Bryce Fitzgerald at free safety or a nickel, wherever they decide to play him, and see what the secondary looks like with another year under the belt.
Yeah. Jadis Richard is a senior this year. He's played in 2 games. He could come back if he wanted to. I think he's got a red shirt available to him. So if he seeks that medical red shirt to be able to play, he can. He's kind of the mystery here to me. But overall, I mean, this is a solid group, man. And to me, no reason at all that Miami's defense can't be really good next year, even after losing Ruben Bain and Nakeem Mazador and some of the other guys that they've got.
And look at the difference between this year's secondary and last year's. Richard was a bigger contributor, a lot bigger contributor a season ago. Started some games, and just can't get on the field.
Yeah, he's tried. He's come back and he's contributed somewhat from returning from injury. He had the basically a season-ending injury and had a long time to recover. But even when he's come back, there's other guys that have just sort of passed him up on the charts. I want to get to a mailbag. I don't know that we have a lot of questions, so we may be able to get through this portion really quickly. But just your overall thoughts on 26. We went through the whole roster. What are your thoughts as you look at the state of the program going into year 5?
I'm optimistic. I think they should have another 10-win season. They're going to finish. They should finish with 10 wins this year. Please, knock on wood. Don't screw the pooch on this one, Mario. that'll be back-to-back 10-win seasons, and they're going to be heading into another one with the potential to have 3 straight 10-win seasons for the first time in God knows how long. At that point, I think next year, depending on who you have at quarterback and what holes you plug, they should be a playoff team, especially with that schedule. That schedule is not daunting. But then again, they handled the harder part of the schedule this season and crapped it down the stretch in the easier part. The goal for next year should be, aside from making the playoff, I think the main goal next year as a program going into the offseason is dominate the ACC. That should be the
Yeah.
goal. Dominate the ACC. Do something no program here has done, pretty much, which is dominate the ACC all the way through into the ACC title and win an ACC championship. That should be goal number one, because if you do that, then the secondary goal of the college football playoff handles itself. There is no debate. You're in, right?
Yeah.
So the ACC should be the focus next year and should be what they are working on and focusing on the entire offseason.
All right, I got some mailbag questions, some topics here for you. This is from David Hernandez D Hernan on Twitter. Should the Canes be rooting for Lane Kiffin to not take the Florida job for recruiting purposes? Should Cane fans keep an eye on who the Gators hire?
I mean, the Gators are going to hire who they're going to hire, right? If they're able to steal Lane Kiffin, they will. If they can't, they're going to hire another probably big name coach. So either way, I think the situation is going to be improved in Gainesville as far as the coach is concerned. They're not going to go with another Billy Napier. They're not going to go with another guy that's unknown, that's on the rise. I think they want an immediate impact. They want a guy, a name they could rely on, not just because they want production on the field, but they want turnover in the roster, and they want to be able to get guys through the portal and in recruiting and have that name make an impact. So whoever they hire is going to be, it's going to make a dent in the Hurricanes recruiting in Florida for a little bit until Mario continues to assert his dominance. Now the problem is, for that coach coming in, Mario's sort of been entrenched the last few years and has become the top dog in the state of recruiting. How can they unseat him? Do they generate enough buzz and momentum with this hire to try and steal some of those guys away? But initially, they're going to have to do it through the portal.
Yeah, I don't know what Florida's going to do. They have so many question marks. DJ Lagway's probably not coming back, is my guess. They're going to have change at quarterback, major roster turnover with guys leaving. Florida, anytime you make a head coaching change at a major university like Florida, there's going to be player movement. Just happens. And so I don't know that when they'll be in a position to truly contend for an SEC crown or to push Miami around on the recruiting trail. But I will say this: Florida always has money. They will spend money. They will buy players the same way Miami and Florida State do. It's a matter of, do they buy the right players, and does any sort of momentum really begin over there? All right, this question's from Jordan J-325. Take the rankings out of it. Which matchups would you love to see in the college football playoff? I've wanted to see Indiana versus Texas Tech since week 4. You watch a lot of college football, Carlos. Of the teams that will make the college football playoff, who
Throw up the
who do you?
rankings again. Let's see.
Yeah, you want me to put them on? Yeah, give me
Yeah.
a second here. I'll pop them on real quick. We'll go to the AP top 25. That's the what we started with earlier today. You got Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, Oregon, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama, and then my guess is I think it's North Texas is one of the G5 team, and then
Who's
the
quarterback
ACC
we
champ.
could steal also. I like that guy.
Yeah, and then the ACC champion, whether that's Georgia Tech or Virginia, is my guess.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech, Indiana would be cool, but I think maybe Georgia, Indiana, to see if Indiana can handle it. Fernando Mendoza can handle that defense. I'd also like to see maybe Tech against Texas A&M. I'd like to see if Marcel Reed can handle that Texas Tech pass rush. Ole Miss, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, those contrasting styles, right? A little bit wide open with Ole Miss, Notre Dame with more of the ground focused attack with Love at running back. Those are some matchups that I would find interesting.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's so hard right now because I think we really don't know what's going to happen. Like, the opening weekend matchups is what I'm thinking about first, because it's like you don't know who's going to win in advance, right? But let's assume for a second that Texas Tech does not get a bye. I think whoever they play in the first round, if they're a 6 seed plus, meaning 6, 7, 8, I think that's going to be a fascinating matchup, especially if they play an SEC team, an overrated SEC team, because their defense is legit, Carlos. Their pass rush is legit, and I think Texas Tech, as bad as their offense is and their quarterback's not that great, they are so dominant on defense that they could potentially pull off a few upsets. So I'm really interested to see whoever Texas Tech plays round one. Maybe it ends up being Alabama or a Notre Dame, or maybe it just ends up being the ACC champ. But I want to see who they face in both of those rounds, and then I think Indiana is without question the second most interesting team because of Mendoza and because of just the success Kurt Cignetti has had, bro. Like, just he's unbelievable. I mean, how many guys go into a place like Indiana and pull that off? Like, in all seriousness, like we've always done this hypothetical. If you put Nick Saban at a bad Power Four school, right, a school that's never won, could he help them win? Kurt Cignetti's proven that. I mean, Indiana has been shit for a long time, and this dude is like, he's just changed everything. He's changed everything there.
Yeah, and it's not like he's done it with marquee transfer portal guys, right? Of course, Mendoza's a transfer portal guy.
They're
But
all
no,
dudes from like James Madison.
right, right. But even Mendoza, like I was high on him, but not all the people were like, "Oh my God, he would be an amazing quarterback in the portal." Nobody was. It wasn't like people were fighting over him to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what he's done with the talent that he has around him is incredible. He's taken a bunch of guys that fit his system, not necessarily are the most talented, but the ones that he feels fit his system best, and it's been fantastic what he's done so far the last couple of years.
All right, let's get to our next question here. This is J.K. Slay, longtime listener, contributor to the show. He says, I like Dawson, but I lost a little respect for him when he said during the press conference that they're running the same plays they've been running. It's insulting to the media and the fan base to pretend you haven't changed or diversified calls. I know this is ego, but geez, am I wrong?
I don't know. Have you listened to the podcast? Come on, JK Slay. You know, you've been arguing with me for years that I don't know what I'm talking about with Dawson. Now you're coming over to the dark side. This is what I've been telling you, man. I've been telling you this, and now you see it clearly. You know what? Welcome to the dark side. We have milk and cookies. We got coffee. We got a little bourbon in the back if you want some. It's all here for you. Enjoy the lounge.
De Omega asked this, and the first time we get a De Omega request. Which is more impactful? Which team a team loses to, or which team a team defeats?
It depends on who each of those teams are, right?
Yeah, I
Like if you
think
lose to 1-10 team, that's pretty impactful. That looks like shit on you. And also, when you win and when you lose is also impactful.
I agree, but I also think if this is going to be done the fairest way possible, right, and take bias out of it, head-to-head results should be number one. Who you lose to, the quality of the opponent that you lose to should matter as well. And then your overall strength of schedule, right?
Yep.
Not based on conference, but based on overall record, because every conference is different. It should be what the teams you lost to, what was their record, right? The teams you lost to, were they ranked? That's all conjecture. We really don't know if, right? Like when you beat LSU earlier this year, right? Well, if you're Vanderbilt and you beat LSU this year, yes, they were ranked. But in all honesty, can you sit here and say LSU deserved to be ranked after the season they've had?
Not at the end of the season, but coming into it, you felt like that they were. Just like
But
Penn State coming into the season, coming off a playoff appearance with most of the same people back, you expected them, and they were basically one quarter, a couple drives away from beating Oregon and continuing that streak, and then the whole season fell apart, and
you
James
know,
Franklin got fired. So it's a matter of taking, I think, the totality of the circumstances and not knee jerking based on one factor. I think taking it all in and seeing a macro view of it and then making your decision and your determination best based on that. And also it's towards the end of the season, which teams are playing best and which teams are looking best at that point in the season makes a difference, just like in the college basketball playoff selection, right? And the
right,
bracketology. You have to be playing well towards the end of the season and be at a level where you are worthy of a playoff spot. Because if you're limping into the playoff spot and you suffer a couple losses late and you end up 10-2, yeah, you have a case for it, but do you deserve it?
right. I just think, Carlos, like we sit here, this is supposed to not take into account what conference you're in, right? In terms of, I don't know, conference prejudice, right? It's not supposed to take into account some of these exterior factors. And yet, the rankings, without question, the preseason rankings affect everything. You're not supposed to take the preseason rankings into account. They're supposed to be fake just for us to talk. And yet, the very first poll comes out and it's clear that they're going off of the AP. Like it's a joke to me. It's a joke. Like don't sell this propaganda of we have objective people who study film and do all this, and then come out and look just like the AP poll. You like it can't it shouldn't look that way. And you have preconceived notions that affect all of this. Like people are still talking about Texas because they were the number one preseason team. Kirk Herbstreit came out and said, "Well, if Texas goes 9-3, they should still be in consideration for the playoff." Texas, who lost to Florida,
No,
Texas, who lost it by 25 to Alabama. Why? Why? They lost. They had their chance, and they lost to bad teams.
yeah,
I that's the part that kills me is we sit here and talk about, this is an objective process and we're gonna, not take preconceived and it's not. It's the opposite. It's the total opposite. They're all full of shit. They're all full of shit, man, and they're all pushing their own teams, their own conferences, their own, beliefs. Like, stop. We're not stupid.
but
Um,
it's always been that way, and that's why it's important to take care of business when you can. Because if you leave the door open, they're going to kick it in your face.
well, let me ask you this because this question goes back to something that I think some Miami fans are saying. Um, People are saying, why play Notre Dame at this point next year? Because they're on the schedule next year. If you're playing them early in the year and you do the same thing, you go up there and you beat them, and the same thing happens to you again. They get in the playoff, but you don't, even though you have the same record, right? And you beat them head to head. What are you gaining by playing that game earlier in the year?
Number one, would they be in that position to be able to get in the playoff without beating Notre Dame early in the season when Notre Dame was ranked where they were ranked, coming off a national championship appearance? They would not be. They would have been further back in the playoff picture to begin with. Second, it's not Notre Dame's fault you lost to SMU and Louisville. Don't blame them. Okay, I get the committee ranked them over you guys, over us as a team, and it pushed us further back, and we can't compare to them one-on-one because we're ranked. None of that happens if you beat Louisville and SMU. But at the end of the day, you're not in the position that you're in to even be considered if you don't beat Notre Dame, right? And number three, for the fan base, you enjoy that game. That's a rivalry game. That's a game that gets you up, right? Everybody was super excited to play Notre Dame early in the season, right? It doesn't matter in Florida. Even if Florida's unranked, you're excited for that game. That's a game that gets your juices flowing as a fan. So for me, there's no downside to it because one, because of their cachet, because of their bias, because of everything we were talking about with the college football playoff committee, if you beat Notre Dame, that's a good thing on your record and it elevates you in terms of the rankings as long as you continue to handle business down the road, especially next year with the schedule you have. Eliminate Notre Dame from that schedule. Do you think Miami has a marquee schedule or a marquee game anywhere in that schedule?
No, but if they go 12-0 against that weak ass schedule, guess what?
All right, I get it. But at the end of the day, what if it comes? What if they go 11-1 with that schedule?
They still probably get in because they're the one
Do
team
they?
from the ACC.
If they lose in the ACC championship game, or maybe they don't make the ACC championship game,
I don't
it
know.
leaves the door open again. But I think you're more likely to get in if you go 11-1 with a win against Notre Dame.
Probably,
That's
yeah.
just me. I
But
think it elevates your profile, and it also for recruiting purposes, beating
Mhm,
Notre Dame helps you when you're going head to head in recruiting battles against them.
maybe. But I don't know, man. Like in all honesty, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, the SEC and the Big Ten have basically taken over college football. What if you just pull the rug out from underneath them and don't schedule them anymore? Just don't play them. What are you going to be able to definitively say the SEC is better than the ACC or the Big Ten is definitively if they don't have those matchups? What are you going off of at that point? Then you just have a giant unknown, right? You have
Mhm.
no data to back anything up.
Right, or you just have the eye test.
I tested what? You didn't both of these you didn't play anybody. You didn't play anybody their
Right, you're playing your
conference,
own, but you're playing your own conference games. You're playing opponents
right?
outside of those
Right.
SEC and Big Ten conferences. You could look at a team and see who's good and who's not. You could clearly look at a team and say, okay, this team's good as shit. The way they look, based no matter who they're playing, this is a team that looks like a playoff team as long as they take care of business, as opposed to one that's like, oh, these guys are, I don't know about these guys.
What if the ACC just stopped scheduling Notre Dame? Then what?
What if
How's Notre Dame gonna beef up their schedule? How are they gonna claim that they're number one in the country if they're not beating up on ACC teams?
force them to join the conference and to be able to schedule those games?
Exactly. Now you start getting somewhere. But the point is, the ACC keeps feeding into all of this. They let it happen to themselves. Take some control over the situation. That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, brother. Take
What?
some control here.
It's at the end of the day, it's about accountability, right? Handle your fucking business
All right.
across the board.
Last question. This is from Robert Freeborn. It's really more of a hot take. He says the surgery took longer for Beck to really recover from, and he's only now rounding into form and meshing
No,
with the receivers.
no, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. He looked pretty good early on in the season. Everybody was saying he was a Heisman hopeful. Then he throws 5 picks against Louisville, and all of a sudden it's the injury. Get out of here, bro.
Yeah, I agree,
He was
man.
throwing the ball just fine. There was no loss in velocity. The issues about him had nothing to do with arm strength or anything to do with timing with the receiver. It's just reading defenses.
Yeah, he is a two. To me, he looks at two spots. If he has a second read, it's not there. Probably going to be bad.
Yeah, and that's why he should go. They should run more RPO or run RPO period because it shortens it to a 1 to 2 read situation.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And maybe the next quarterback at Miami, whoever he is, will be more of that guy.
Yeah, hopefully not Sam Levitt. Poor guy, he wouldn't last year. I see bad things for that guy happening down. He's going to run down on South Beach or Brickell, and he's going to run into a Brazilian or a Colombian or a Cuban, and that boy ain't going to be the same. He'll be what was this kid's name? The short kid that was here that we thought was from Ohio State that we thought was going to be the next.
Yeah. God, we've already
Tate,
forgotten.
was it
Tate Martell?
Tate Martell. I was going to say Tate McRae. She's a great singer. But yeah, the Tate Martell part 2.
Yeah.
You might run into Tate McRae down here too. Who knows?
He's Carlos Ledo, your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. I'm Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Wide Right episode. We will be back with more show next week. Any final thoughts, Carlos?
Hey, listen, I know it seems bleak. Oh, and it seems like it might not happen. But all you can do is take care of business, right? Because at the end of the day, the future is not guaranteed. The past is already gone. All you have is the present. So make the most of it. There you go.
Gator Ball. See you guys.
Peace.